Welcome everybody to the 2023 MATE New England Regional. We all ready to see some robots compete? Cool. I think the first team is getting set up now, so we should be starting any minute. Okay. All right, so kicking us off, we have Team Skunk, first competitor of the 2023 MATE New England Regional. So this year, all the tasks are themed around the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science. The teams have to perform operations related to marine renewable energy and life underwater. So I believe they are right now trying to release their profiling float. So this will be a separate device which will take a water sample while they're performing their other tasks. It looks like it's been deployed. So now we'll see which task the ROV is moving on to while the profiling float does its work.
I'm here at the heartbeat of our technology, watching our technology. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Steve. I'm kind of leading up the live streaming team here. And what you see over here on the bench is our cameras coming in. So we have two submersible cameras in the pool. Here's an example of what they kind of look like. They are IP security cameras inside of waterproof housings, tethered back up here through an Ethernet cable, and we're using PoE to power them. So these are attached to tripods at the bottom of the pool. Our divers are aiming for us down there. And then we have two GoPros on each of the mission stations up top, so we can see the students driving. We also have a couple of other cameras here. We have one at the other side of the pool, so you can see the entirety of the room, and one right here at the edge of the pool, so we can see when they go up to the top. And then when both stations are running, we have the split screen, so you can see the drivers in both of the mission stations running.
I think so. You seem in the clear. Which task are you all working on now? Oh, cool. So right now, I believe Skunk is working on measuring a coral reef. So actually trying to create a 3D model and measure the health of a coral reef themed around the Life Underwater Sustainable Development Goal.
I'm Dan Shropshire. I work for Teledyne Marine here on the Cape.
All right.
And Mark Whalen. I'm currently an engineering professor at Mass Maritime.
Fantastic. What is your engineering specialty, Mark?
Underwater vehicles, oceanographic equipment. Worked a lot with Martin for a number of years, and now teaching the next generation engineers.
All right. And Dan, tell us a little bit about Teledyne's robotic interest.
Sure. So I'm part of our business development team, but Teledyne here in Massachusetts at least, we build a number of ROV or underwater vehicles, including ROVs, autonomous underwater vehicles like gliders and boats. So yeah, it's good to have local made competitions and hopefully get the next set of employees for our industry.
Oh, so this is talent acquisition for you.
For me, it is.
That's great. And so your volunteers today, what is your volunteer capacity, and tell me how your day's been going so far?
With the safety review, I don't know what we call this, but
safety judges.
Yeah, so we're making sure that ROVs are all ready to go in the pool and pass all their safety checks.
And why is that important?
Mostly for their safety and for the safety of the people around them, that things don't melt, things don't pop, and cause any harm to anybody.
So one last question. Let me know why you as organizations and other organizations should support MATE.
Well, I think we talked about one good thing out of that is, hopefully generating the interest in our industry and that next set of students who will hopefully go on to have careers in the group. But it's also good just from to advance the technology a little further, see what people are doing, give them some advice, and hopefully, again, advance our whole industry.
And again, I think Mass Maritime as an organization is very interested in supporting MATE and allowing the competition to come here so students get exposure and actually get to see, there's a college right here that you might be interested in later on in your career.
Oh, cool. So continuing on the Life Underwater SDG, I believe Team Skunk is now working on a frog transect. So trying to count the number of instances of a frog they can find, estimate the population. This task, I imagine, will rely heavily on their cameras and piloting skill to keep track of everything they've seen and where they are. Oh, it looks like they might now be moving on to the fish fry release task. So this one is about releasing fish fry into a safe environment. They have 2 possible release locations and have to find the one that doesn't have a bunch of predatory fish in it. Again, a test of the vision and piloting of the ROV.
Okay, so here we are at Mate 2023, and we have come across this fantastic family. And I'm wondering if you all might want to introduce yourselves first.
Hi, I'm Steve Vogel.
Claire Vogel.
Owen Vogel.
Hi, Owen. So, Owen, are you here today to support a particular team?
Yeah, the team from New York.
The team from New York. So you've been able to shadow them today, I understand?
Yeah.
What kind of experience has it been so far?
It's really, really interesting, and it's also been really cool just to see how like people build all this really cool stuff.
Yeah. So are you interested in building things?
Yeah, I like building stuff.
And how old are you?
11.
Are you sure? Is this your first mate competition?
Yes.
Okay, what do you think so far?
It's really cool. It's like I like the way how all the robots are all different, but they're all like similar in some key ways.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
And so you understand that each year they're given a different mission that they have to accomplish in the pool?
Yes.
Okay, so you've been shadowing the group. What do you understand about the mission?
I don't really understand that much about the mission.
So they're made up of 3 real-life scenarios, one on coral reefs, one on seagrass, and one on renewable energy and wind farms.
It's the one on renewable energy and wind farms.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Owen, so do you think that maybe in the future this might be something that you're interested in joining a team?
I might. I think so. Yeah.
All right, I think Team Skunk may now be working on the camera release task, where they have to position a camera underwater to track species in an area.
Do you have anything else that you saw today that you might want to tell us about? Like, what was it like being sort of embedded or shadowing a team?
It was really interesting because you could just see like how we all work together really well. It was a really good experience.
So you liked watching the teamwork?
Yeah.
Yep. Everybody has their role that they work together?
Yeah.
Yep. And so, Mom and Dad, what do you think about why organizations should support this type of effort?
I think it's great for kids, even if they don't go into marine science, to have a way to learn to work together and a way to learn to fail and then use that to succeed. And that seems like a lifelong skill.
It's true. Failure's a good motivator, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a great opportunity to give kids hands-on experience applying science to really cool, missions that they can work towards.
Oh, so it looks like Team Skunk is starting on the marine renewable energy task. So the idea of this task, the oceans, amazing potential source of energy, renewable energy. So in this task, they have to deliver a floating solar array, position it in that wind farm, moor it to the ground, and hook it up to the grid. Lot of tasks to do there, involving precise manipulation. Looks like the array is in the wind farm. Oh, but it might be tangled in their tether. It looks like Team Skunk might be having trouble with the mooring lines getting tangled. Big problem. Management of lines and tethers on ROVs is one of the major challenges. So Team Skunk, with 2 minutes left, has gotten one of their propellers entangled, which is a tough spot to be in, but it looks like the divers are helping them out. And at the same time, it looks like BC High is ready to go. I see their ROV in the water. Oh, and it looks like Team Skunk is out of the water. I apologize. I misread that this entire time. Team Sunk. I'm really sorry about that. Sorry. All right. It looks like Team Sunk is wrapping up to a great first run of the regional. I think they touched on pretty much every task, and except for that tangling at the end. It went pretty smoothly. Oh, and it looks like BC High has started. All right, it looks like BC High is getting back in the water, and meanwhile, I believe Murex is setting up Station 2.
Standing here with the illustrious mission judges on the pool deck. They're in between judging, so I'm going to catch a quick interview with them. So I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves.
Yeah, so I'm Seth McCammon. I work with the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution.
Calvin Myers, also with the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution.
I'm Jesse Canelli. I work with Pellet Admiration.
How many years have you all been judging mate?
That's a great question. I think this is my 6th year.
Okay.
Pretty close. I got started in Ohio, and then we moved up here at Coffee in about 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
This is my first year.
Okay, so we've got quite a range here. So, Jesse, as a first-year judge, how do you think this competition's going so far?
Great. It's really interesting. We have this building some great engineering skills for these kids. And, yeah.
That's great. Seth, real quick, can you just tell us just a brief about the mission?
Yeah, so there's several different tasks associated in the mission. The first one involves kind of studying like a coral reef. So the kids are doing sort of simulated interventions on the coral reef, sort of identifying diseased coral, things like that. And they're also looking at marine renewable energy, so deploying solar panels, attaching power connectors to wind farms, and then reintroducing fish fry into reservoirs, sort of assessing reservoir health.
Oh, so very timely missions here that we have.
All very important and very relevant to things that we're doing in the field today.
All right. Calvin, can you tell me a little bit about why you're involved in MATE and why should other organizations be involved?
This is a really great opportunity to see the future in action. These kids are so brilliant, so creative. I see the tasks that they're given when MATE passes them out, and I think, oh my gosh, I don't know how they're able to manage that. I think any sponsor or anyone in the industry, this would be a wonderful place to come check out new talent. Especially, there are so many age ranges. They start young, and they really just have some wonderful minds.
Oh, it looks like BC High is working on the fish fry task right now. Again, their job is to locate a release site without predators, so the fish fry have the chance to grow.
Yeah, right.
Oh. It looks like BC High is using a hand pump to force air down to the robot. Looks like they're still over in the fish fry task. So it looks like Team Murex is getting started over here in testing, over here in Station 2. Each team has 5 minutes of testing before they get started. Chance to make sure everything on the robot is working properly before they launch. So the way the competition is structured, each team has 2 chances in the pool. It's a 15-minute period to score as many points as they can by completing tasks. So again, this year the tasks are themed around the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science. So there's tasks related to ocean health, ocean science, and marine renewable energy. Oh, and it looks like Murex is in the water over here in Station 2. See their ROV descending slowly. Hopefully that's intentional. Oh, Murex is maneuvering. BC High looks like they're still over in the fish fry release task, so looking for predatory fish that could threaten the fish fry before their release. Okay, and Team Murex has started. Looks like Team Murex is just dealing with a little bit of tangling. BC High still over in that fish fry release area. Team Murex seems like they might be having some issues submerging, but plenty of time to work that out. Looks like BC High a bit tangled, but looks like they might have been working on the coral scanning task. The challenge there is to build a 3D model of a coral head to instrument its health. Yep, looks like Team Murex also having some issues with tangling, but the divers are going down now to help them out, so they should be back in action shortly. Oh, and Murex is untangled. Team Murex still maneuvering around the bottom. We'll see which task they move towards first. Maneuvering underwater, surprisingly difficult. In addition to currents, you also have the tether fighting you the whole time, so pulling the robot in weird directions. Team Murex, I think, still getting the robot running. Meanwhile, it looks like, I believe that's Team Eagle getting set up at Station 1. Eagle robots. Murex is still maneuvering. We'll see what task they head to. Meanwhile, Eagle Robotics getting set up at Station 1. All right, it looks like Team Murex is returning to the surface. So, hopefully learned a lot of lessons for the next run. Eagle Robotics still getting ready over in Station 1. Eagle Robotics looks like they deployed their buoy. I saw it go down. Let's see if it comes back up. Up. So the buoy task involves having a separate buoy that can dive and return to the surface twice, communicating back to the base station each time. So demonstrating a autonomous water column profiling buoy. Really important for ocean health to be able to measure salinity and temperature as a function of depth. See how the ocean temperature and environment is changing over time. It looks like the sound school is getting set up in Station 2. So I believe every team competing today is competing in the Ranger class. Ranger class has 3 tasks they're competing in. Examining a coral reef and environmental DNA, performing a transect and fish fry release, and setting up a marine renewable energy facility. In addition to those tasks in the water, they also have a engineering report and presentation where they have a chance to explain the innovations and process by which they developed their ROVs. Oh, there goes Eagle Robotics sampling buoy. While the teams are setting up, welcome everyone. A lot of newcomers to the 2023 MATE New England Regional Competition. We have 6 teams competing in the Ranger class today. So these teams have 3 tasks they have to perform, themed around the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science. The tasks include performing a transect and evaluating predatory species to release fish fry safely, monitoring and healing a coral head, and setting up a marine renewable energy platform. We have Eagle Robotics over in Station 1 working on their profiling buoy. So this is a buoy that travels up and down twice autonomously, wirelessly communicating back to the base station what it sees in the water column. Really important to track ocean health at all depths. Then we have the sound school getting set up over in Station 2. Looks like sound school is in the water, descending. So in addition to the vertical thrusters to maneuver, the sound school has a ballast tank, I believe, so they can actually pump air in and out of a tank on the ROV to adjust the buoyancy. Allows for a very precise, smooth depth control, but a more complex tether in operation since you're running down an airline. I believe we now have Hackley Robotics getting set up at Station 1, while Sound School is getting started maneuvering over here at Station 2.
Melissa Boviero, and I am the team mentor for Hackley Aquatic Engineers from Tarrytown, New York.
Wow, you came all the way down to New York to Mass Maritime for this competition today, huh?
Yes, we did, absolutely.
So tell me what the experience has been like for you and the team since you got the mission.
Sure. Mate is a whirlwind of planning and replanning. They came here last year as a navigator team, and they did rather well, and they wanted to compete this year as a ranger. We were quite surprised at the level of intensity from navigator to ranger, so they've really been working all year trying to figure out how to make an ROV that could complete all those missions. But it is, this group of kids have been together since middle school,
Wow.
working on submersibles. So I think this year is their strongest showing. Most of the team members, with the exception of one, is a 12th grader. So this is actually their last year, and they just really wanted to go out with a bang.
So they're swan song, huh? They're swan cruise,
Absolutely.
huh?
And the thing with making these robots is a lot of times you come up with the concept and then you don't actually know if it works till you start getting into the water. So it's really been, I would say, the last 2 weeks of things working, not working, debugging the programs. We've been at school working late till like 11 o'clock at night. These kids gave up weekends, but they're just so passionate about it that I love it. I'm there with them, and I feel like an extra member of the team just kind of watching it all happen.
So what's your background in this that would get you involved in being a mentor?
Well, I am a geologist, so I always say that they know so much more than me. If this was rocks, it'd be a different story. I've actually learned a lot from them in terms of programming. I went into it just kind of being handy. I know how to do circuitry, but that's pretty much it. And they really wanted to do it as a middle. We actually said we started as a middle school. It's a middle school club. They loved it so much that they actually advocated for it to go into the high school.
Usually it's land robotics, but this is undersea. So how did you get them interested in undersea?
So I actually first did MATE as an 8th grade science teacher in Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow.
Yes, and then when I came to New York to teach, I was doing another science program, but I didn't find the kids were as engaged, and we remembered, and I'd only done it for a year in Georgia, but I remembered how engaged those kids were. So I was like, let me try it as an after school club, and this was like their island of, I say the island Mr. Toys, but it was like they would just be in there soldering, doing all the circuitry. So yeah.
So tell me what you think is a good reason for an organization or company to help sponsor this kind of event.
These students have all said, 9/12 graders, that, and their families can attest that this program drove their passion into engineering, into mechanical engineering, into science. They talked to me, and their parents talked to me how they wrote their college essays about their experiences in MATE, their experiences making ROVs. They said it was life-changing to them. So I can't even describe enough like what a difference this made, and not only like in terms of their own abilities, but even as they grew. I mean, I saw them from 6th graders to where they are now, and their ability to communicate, their ability to work as a team, their friendships have developed.
Sound School still maneuvering. We'll see what task they head to while Hackley Robotics is getting set up at Station 1. Looks like Hackley is getting in the water. And Hackley is putting in their profiling buoy as well. Again, this is a separate device which measures the properties of the water column, descending and returning to the surface autonomously and communicating back to the base station. Sound School is moving towards the edge of the play area, maybe trying to get a better view of the field. Piloting ROVs, incredibly difficult. In addition to fighting currents and the tether, you generally have a very narrow field of view in a cluttered environment. Looks like there's Hackney Station 1 over there. Cool, because they're in the water. Can I not see where they are? Oh, they're at the surface. Sound School at the bottom, panning around. We have two robots in the water right now, Sound School and Hackley. Sound School is now poking around the wind farm. This task is around marine renewable energy, so cleaning biofouling off of a offshore wind farm and deploying a solar array. Biofouling, a huge issue in the blue economy. In addition to problems with static structures like wind farms, can cause an enormous loss of efficiency in boats, contributing an enormous amount to greenhouse gas emissions. Biofouling referring to the growth of algae and other marine life on the surface of structures and ships. All right, it looks like Sound School is returning. Meanwhile, Hackley is in the water and maneuvering. It looks like Hackley might be trying to grab the solar array. Again, this is a part of the marine renewable energy task. So the robots have to move a solar array from shore to the wind farm, moor it to the bottom, then connect it up to the grid and deploy it. Very complicated task. Oh. The solar array is moving. It looks like Hackley has engaged with the solar array. Really tough task with the mooring lines. Cables and ropes, the natural enemy of ROVs. All right. Hackley is now maneuvering around the bottom. Looks like they're near the frog transect. The goal of this task is to estimate the population of a species of frog by maneuvering in a pattern and counting occurrences through that pattern, so you can estimate the total population. Hackley School getting some assistance from the divers. They might have some tangling. Again, ropes and lines, a huge issue for ROVs, even in the real world. Easy to get tangled in propellers. One of the big challenges of piloting an ROV is keeping in mind the tether, making sure that doesn't get tangled, separate from the ROV. Hackley lined up at that frog transect, so might be performing that counting task. The ROVs have cameras on board, but it's up to each team how many cameras and how they want to place them. So lots of trade-offs there between piloting and task performance. Hackley still in the frog transect area. Meanwhile, we have a BC High getting set up in Station 2. Should see them in the water shortly. And it looks like Hackley has moved on from the frog transect. They're in the wind farm right now, but we'll see if they're working in the wind farm or just making their way over to the fish fry task. Looks like Hackley may be running into some entanglement issues with the mooring lines for the wind farm. Looks like Hackley is maneuvering one of the moorings around the wind farm, maybe getting ready to work on the solar array. Their solar array seems to have drifted a bit. Hackley's still working on that mooring, but looks like they're doing a really good job with the maneuvering. Pretty consistent in getting a hold of the mooring. Looks like they started fighting with the mooring. Meanwhile, BC High looks like they're getting ready to deploy. For anyone just joining us, the way this competition works, each team has 5 minutes of setup, then has 15 minutes to get as many points as possible by completing tasks in the pool. There's 3 major tasks this year themed around the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science. You have cleaning a offshore marine renewable energy facility and deploying a solar panel. You have releasing fish fry and counting species populations. And then you have healing a coral reef, instrumenting and healing a coral reef. So each team can do whatever tasks they want in whatever order they want to try to get as many points as possible during that 15-minute run. Like, oh, it looks like Hackley is out of the water. Looks like they picked up their buoy on the way back. Oh. Hey, seems like another good run. Oh, and BC High is in the water and maneuvering. Going straight towards the frog transect, it looks like. Really a test of maneuvering and camera setup. Near the fish fry. All right, it seems like BC High is now over in the fish fry release. So there's these two green squares on the bottom with spiky protrusions. They need to decide which of those two squares has fewer predatory fish. Again, a test of the camera to decide where to release the fry. A test of their construction and tooling. Another thing you'll notice, the teams all have people on shore managing the tether. Tether management, a critical part of ROV operation. The tether's constantly pulling on the ROV in surprising ways. It can get tangled, so you really need to stay on the ball, keeping the tether as short as possible without disrupting the pilot. Tether management, also the reason for the small pieces of foam you see taped to the tether to try to get it to an acceptable level of buoyancy so it doesn't pull on the ROV when it's in the water. Oh, and it seems like BC High is now over in the seagrass and seahorse task. This task all around, again, evaluating life underwater connected to those UN Sustainable Development Goals, trying to defend a very delicate habitat. And we have Team Sunk returning, this time to Station 1, so this will be their second run of the day. BC High maneuvering around. I think that might be the environmental DNA task. Environmental DNA, a really cool emerging technique. Any sample of water is full of biological waste from all the creatures living there. You can just sequence all the DNA in that sample and estimate what species in what number are present in that area. Huge boon to researchers trying to evaluate populations. Looks like BC High trying to get lined up to grab one of the props or to just free themselves. BC High returning to the surface. Oh. The robot is out of the water. Looks like they're getting ready for the camera deployment task. So going back to that seahorse in seagrass environment, the goal of this task is to deliver a camera to a designated area to monitor the health of the underwater ecosystem. So they've grabbed the prop in their gripper. They just released it. All right, and that's the camera released. Oh. Hackley, or BC High, maneuvering into the tent structure underwater. Do you know what your test that is?
What?
Do you know what?
It's the last one that was done all the time.
Oh, cool.
The last one. Once they do it, they have to add. You guys pushed it all the way in. You're good.
All right, and with that, it seems like BC High completes another task.
Oh, that's what. Yeah, that like has to be
Oh, so BC High looks like they've grabbed the solar array and brought it over to the wind farm. So this task all themed around marine renewable energy. potential for huge amounts of wind and solar out on the open ocean. So they have to bring that triangular prop, the solar panel, into the center of the wind farm, moor it, which is particularly challenging with actual ropes, then hook it up to the grid and deploy it to start generating power. Oh, and it seems like they've released the solar array. Oh, and Team Sunk is in the water, I think still in their 5-minute testing period, but hopefully starting soon. BC High down at the bottom of the renewable energy facility. They might be mooring or they might be trying to hook the solar up to the grid. Team Sunk is in the water, maneuvering around the profiling buoy site. So again, each team has a chance to deploy an autonomous profiling buoy, which will descend to the bottom and return to the surface twice, communicating back to the base station. So you can efficiently measure ocean health, temperature, salinity. BC High, 2 minutes left on their run. Looks like they had some tangling issues, but back in the game. Team Sunk still maneuvering with their buoy over in that deployment zone. It looks like BC High is back on the surface. Meanwhile, Team Sunk is down near, I believe that's the coral scanning task. So the idea here is to build a 3D model of a coral head. Coral's a key part of the marine ecosystem and a very useful indicator of marine health. So being able to scan and measure their state, very useful information. Looks like each team gets 2 runs in the pool, and I believe the highest score of the 2 runs is the one that's kept for the final scoring. Team Sunk maneuvering towards that seahorse habitat and environmental DNA. And now Team Sunk is at the fish fry task. Again, this is to choose between two release locations for juvenile fish, trying to find the one with fewer predators. So a test of their camera sensing and fish fry release tooling. Can they identify the predatory fish and choose the safer habitat, then successfully release the fry? This is Team Sunk's second run of the day. Each team gets two 15-minute runs to score as many points as possible by completing tasks. Looks like they're moving over towards the frog counting task. The idea here is to maneuver through a transect, counting the number of frogs they see, which would let them estimate the total population in a larger area. So again, a real test of their piloting, maneuvering through that pattern, and their cameras. How well can they see and count the frogs? Piloting ROV is an extremely difficult task with the tether and currents fighting you constantly in a relatively limited field of view. There, it looks like Sunk is returning to pick up a prop. I believe that prop is to defend the seahorse habitat. We'll see where they head. A tricky task. It's a very large prop. And not a rigid prop either, so lots of maneuvering and manipulation challenges with this one. I can see they picked it up. Team Sunk with that prop back in the water. Team Sunk over at the Marine Renewable Energy Facility. Lots of tasks to do there. Cleaning the wind turbines, removing biofouling, organic growth on those turbines. Also deploying a solar array. It's a very involved process. They have to bring it to the energy site, moor it, and then connect it to the grid. Looks like Team Sunk maneuvering towards that mooring point for the solar array. Team Sunk going towards that resident ROV docking station. So the idea here is as marine renewable energy starts to grow, we'll need ROVs to be on site 24/7, so an ability to dock and operate on site. Oh, looks like Team Sunk might be a bit entangled, but looks like they got themselves loose. Oh, and all right, and it looks like Team Sunk is out of the water, which I believe wraps us up for the morning session. Right now we have Team Murex getting ready at Station 1 and Team Eagle Robots getting ready at Station 2. So the way the competition works, each team gets 2 runs in the pool to score as many points as they can by completing tasks. They have a 5-minute setup period, which they're both taking advantage of right now, then 15 minutes in the pool. The tasks this year are all themed around the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science. So we have tasks related to measuring the health of marine ecosystems, rehabilitating marine ecosystems, and marine renewable energy. So the teams choose the tasks they want to complete in any order they want. And we'll be letting you know what they're working on as they go through it. Oh, and it looks like Murex is in the water at Station 1. We'll see which task Murex heads for. Eagle robots back in the water. Eagle robots making some last-minute buoyancy adjustments, it looks like. Meanwhile, Murex looks like they're moving near the fish fry task. The idea of this task, releasing juvenile fish to replenish local populations. They need to identify which of 2 sites is free of predatory fish, and then release a series of fish fry. Eagle robots over near the coral reef probiotics task, so healing a coral reef by injecting antibiotics and other chemicals to help it out.
So welcome everybody today to Mate 2023. Can you tell me where your team is from?
We're from Phillips Exeter Academy,
All right, and where is that?
Exeter, New Hampshire.
All right, perfect. And so this team just came out of the water. They are waiting for their engineering evaluation, and we have the team lead right here. And can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Aiden Hansen.
All right, and how old are you, Aiden?
I'm 17.
Okay, that's great. So I wanted to ask you guys, maybe I'm gonna pick on one of you and say, how has your day been so far?
We technically woke up pretty early at like 6 a.m., but I feel like we were pretty energized. We got done goods.
All right. And how long have you been working on this project?
Since the start of the school year, around September and October, we've already been working on this.
So this is a long process for you, and you guys are gelling as a team?
Pretty much,
Yeah?
I would say so.
Okay. And what kind of experience has this been for you?
Oh, well, I would say I learned a lot, and I'm like getting to know a lot of new people as well.
Great. And if you were somebody who wanted to sponsor or support the Mate competition, either one of you, what would you say that you're getting out of it why should they support it?
It's a great environment for team building and getting to know your peers. It also is a competition that really provides you with a lot of opportunities to learn, because there's no minimum or maximum for how complex you can make a robot. So it's just a great environment to learn, and it's really, you don't need to know anything to start.
That's great. And go ahead, absolutely.
And I also think like the potential of like underwater robotics, it can potentially grow really big, and you can just like my co-programmer Alton here said, there's so many possibilities that you can do underwater robotics.
That is wonderful. And if you had one piece of advice for another teammate on another team, what would it be?
I guess try to be creative, find good solutions to problems, and thinking creatively helps innovate.
All right, and how is this going to help you in the future, do you think?
It really teaches us how to learn and how to figure things out, and it's really like mimicking a more professional business environment, and overall we just learn a lot of skills.
That's great. Well, good luck today on your engineering section of your day, and we hope that you have a great experience here at Massachusetts Maritime Academy.
Team Murex over near the wind farm. Looks like they're still dealing with some entanglement issues. The wind farm, a particularly challenging environment. Oh. Cool. Cool. Yeah, so the wind farm, a particularly challenging environment with a lot of cables running to the surface, easy to get entangled, and the robots have to deploy more cables to moor a solar array. Very high-risk environment for the robots. Oh. Looks like Murex is free and maneuvering around again. So all the teams we're seeing now are competing in the Ranger class. Not only do they have to build the ROVs to compete in the pool, they also have to write a technical report and give an oral engineering presentation describing why they made the design they did, why they built the ROV the way they did. Murex still maneuvering around that wind farm. You can see a lot of computer work going on the surface. All these teams develop their own control systems. They can use whatever interface they want, develop the software to control the robot. So a lot of opportunities to customize the robot's behavior to the tasks at hand, but also a lot of ways things can go wrong. Sorry. Looks like Murex going back in the water while we have Hackley Robotics setting up in Station 2. Hackley, or Murex back in the water, descending to the bottom. All right, so we have Hackley at Station 2 getting ready to go in the water. Again, every team has 5 minutes to get set up, then 15 minutes to compete. Looks like we have Sound School right at the start of their setup period for Station 1. Hackley is in the water, and it looks like they're passing their ROV, their profiling buoy. So again, one of the tasks teams can perform to score points is to have the ROV deploy a profiling buoy, which will autonomously descend and return to the surface, communicating back to the base station. Oh. Yeah. Hackley maneuvering towards the red square to deploy their buoy and begin the profiling process. Looks like they released. And the buoy's down there. While the buoy is profiling, their ROV can go on and perform other tasks to score points. Hackley over near the fish fry task, There's 2 green squares where they can release fish fry, juvenile fish, to rehabilitate the population. But they have to find the square with fewer predatory fish in it. So this is a test of their camera setup, piloting, and their fish fry deployment equipment. Sound school still getting set up over at Station 1. Hackley leaving the fish fry task, heading towards, it looks like the seagrass task, where they need to observe a seagrass, a patch of seagrass, connected to the Life Below Seas Sustainable Development Goal. A lot of these tasks are related to observing the underwater environment and the life therein, seeing how healthy the ecosystem is. Again, a test of their piloting and camera capabilities. How well can they position the ROV and how clearly can they see the environment? Hackley still observing that patch of seagrass, it looks like. While Sound School is getting set up at Station 1. It looks like Hackley is now in the renewable energy facility. So lots of tasks to complete there. Cleaning biofouling, organic growth from the wind turbines, mooring a solar panel and hooking it up to the grid. Right, Hackley now over at the Frog Transect, another life below water themed test of piloting and cameras. They need to maneuver along precise pathways, counting the number of frogs they can see to estimate the overall population. And again, as a reminder, the ice cream truck is now here. So if you want ice cream, pop out the front door, and you should see it right there. Hackley back in the fish fry task. Their job is to spot the predatory fish in the two habitats and choose the habitat with fewer of them. Oh, and Sound School is in the water over at Station 1. Sound School uses a compressed air system for their ballast, so pumping air and water in and out of a tank. Allows for a very smooth, precise buoyancy control, but a more complex tether and surface setup. Sound School down on the bottom. We'll see which task they head to. Meanwhile, Hackley looks like they might have run into some entanglement issues. Again, tether management, a huge challenge for ROVs, both here and in industry. Hackley now over near the environmental DNA task, all about taking a sample of the water. Environmental DNA, a really cool technique where you take a sample of water and sequence all the DNA you can find in it from biological waste, which lets you estimate all the species and their populations present. Oh, and it looks like Hackley has gone into the ROV docking station, connecting back to the Marine Renewable Energy Facility. As the blue economy grows, 24-hour access to ROVs will be increasingly important. So the ability to have docking stations in the field will be critical. Meanwhile, Sound School on the bottom and moving around that 3D scanning coral task. Hackley over near their profiling buoy, back from the beginning of their run. Sound School over in those fish fry release habitats. Again, their job is to identify which of those two green squares has fewer predatory fish with their camera. Then release a bunch of fish fry into the safer habitat. Hackley still on the bottom near their buoy and the eDNA task. Sound School back near the surface. Coral reef antibiotic treatment task. So if you identify a sick coral reef, you can actually place a bag or trap around it and fill that trap with antibiotics to bring it back to a healthy state. I believe Hackley have finished their second run for the day, so just recovering their robot now. So Hackley done for today after a great run. Sound School was back on the surface but descending to the bottom again. We'll see which task they head towards next. All right, well, with Hackley finishing up, Station 2 is done for the day, so starting to get all the props out of this pool and break that down. Meanwhile, Sound School is over near the coral 3D scanning task. So again, building a dimensioned 3D model of that coral head to instrument its health. Sound School, looks like they're still scanning that coral, having to build an accurate dimensioned 3D model, a pretty tough ask. Coral head. Meanwhile, as a quick reminder, 15 minutes left on the ice cream truck out front. If you still want ice cream, make your way out there ASAP. So Sound School moving on from that coral scanning task, it looks like. We'll see where they head next. Sound School over near the fish fry task. Again, the challenge there is to look at 2 potential habitats to release juvenile fish to rehabilitate the population. Find which habitat has fewer predatory fish. A test of piloting and camera layout. All right, and with that, Sound School returning to the surface, I believe that is the end of their run, and with that ends the Ranger class of the 2023 MATE New England Regional competition, so we can give all the teams a hand for their work.